What is going on, nerds? Today I'm going to break down the ins and outs of this controversial Georgia voting reform. Election security, voter suppression, depends on who you ask. But we're going to actually look at the actual bill and look at the actual language, because I've noticed there's been a lot of kind of radical MAGA saying, oh, how can you be so critical of this bill? You've not even read the bill. Oh, well, I got time. Let's read it. Let's look at it together. And we're not going to read all 98 pages, but let's isolate some relevant parts of the bill and see if it's as controversial as it should be. Who knows? Maybe there are parts of it that are very reasonable, and maybe people are just overreacting, or maybe people are reacting appropriately because it's anti-democratic and anti-voter rights. But before we get into it, let's warm it up with the little Andrew Yang Hello Nerds.
There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and
Hello, nerds! Nerds for Humanity. I see Tom's daughter says hello. And hello, Gordon Shug. Thank you for the thumbs up already. Appreciate that, Jordan. So yeah, I am going to go dig in to, there's been a little bit of fire and brimstone about this, this voter thing. And so I figured we're just going to go into it. And, in particular, there was, who was this? I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was saying that she's not in favor of all these corporations saying, hey, we're not down with this, this change in the voter rules, and we think it's kind of anti-democracy, and that is getting the MAGA folks really fired up, because they're saying, hey, this is a takeover of the woke movement. And so let's kind of dig in and find out what's going on. And let me see if I can find the tweet. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Share. Let's go here. Yeah, here I am looking at this Marjorie Taylor Greene Twitter feed. And she's kind of representative of a lot of the kind of, you could probably call them like radical MAGA people. And so she's saying, hey, the number one issue at my town hall is Georgia, election integrity. Biggest demands are stop no excuse absentee voting and require mandatory ID. She's talking about, well, that's the trans stuff. Fighting for America first, town hall, House of Hypocrites and the people of Northwest. So she's definitely fired up with the America first, working out, strong, powerful. So I'm just kind of curious. Let's see, voting rights, voting. Oh, now this is the whole thing about the MLB. Whoa, wow, the MLB is going to China. They're not going to Georgia. She's going to vote against Pelosi. There's a surprise. Absentee voting. Wow. Stop the Biden steal. Wow. So she's very fired up. Okay. About this voting stuff. So let's get into it. What exactly is Marjorie Taylor Greene so fired up about? Let's look at the actual language of the voting kind of regulation changes being implemented by the Georgia state Republicans, and you decide if you think this is basically a devolution of America into the Chinese Communist Party, or if this is actually Republicans very angry about losing the election and trying to change the rules of the game so that they stop losing, because maybe they found that when less people vote, they're more likely to win, which is, you could argue that's like a logical position for them to have. But I would say, well, why are you so unpopular? Like, why do so many people feel kind of put off by kind of radical MAGA? Well, let's get into the details here and see some of the basically, let's go into the background. The new voting law, it was passed by the Republican legislature and governor, and we're going to look at 16 provisions, and this has been compiled by the New York Times. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're in the MAGA camp, you're thinking, how is he showing the New York Times? Why isn't he showing the One America News Network analysis? Look, the analysis was done by the New York Times, but the actual language that I'm going to share with you and that they have identified is in the bill. So it's not like written by the New York Times. This is written by the radical MAGA Republicans in the Georgia state legislature and led by the radical MAGA Georgia governor. So, yes, Ramirez, welcome. A member has joined the chat. Okay, so what's actually in it? Hey, Patrick, what's actually in it? We're going to go line by line. We're not going to go all 98 pages, but we're going to look at the 16 provisions that are potentially relevant. Not earlier than, it used to be 180 days, but now it's 78 days prior to the primary. You can make by mail, electronic transmission, or in person an application for an official ballot. So it used to be that you could get a ballot much earlier, somewhere between 79 and 180 days, or you could get a ballot just a few days before the primary. But now, if you want to vote, you can't do it super early. 78 days is the earliest you can do it, and you can't do it super late, because after 11 days prior, you're locked out. Now, let's just be honest here. This is not about this specific line on page 38 of the radical Republican MAGA legislative law is not about ID. Because, a lot of the radical MAGA say, why are people not being required to add ID? This one is all about time. So let me turn that around and ask the radical MAGA, like, why are you so afraid to have people vote early? And why are you so afraid to have people vote 10 days prior? Why can't they get their ballot 9 days prior to the election? Why do you make them get it somewhere between 11 and 78 days. Like if I had a store and I wanted to get a lot of customers and have a lot of people come to my restaurant, I would not say, oh, well, you can only make a reservation either later than 78 days in advance or, but not so late, but after 11 days prior to your reservation, you cannot make a reservation. Like, wouldn't you just say, like, hey, if you want to come to this restaurant, come whenever. Make a reservation early. If I have space, make it the day of. But here, it's like, oh, no, no, no. 78 days, you can do it. 79, no democracy for you. Who's the Chinese Communist Party now? 11 days prior, you can request a ballot. 10 days prior, no democracy for you. Oh, thank you, yes, Ramirez, for liking and sharing and tweeting out this live stream. This is only on YouTube right now. So if you do have a Twitter account, hook a brother up and let people know. So that to me sounds kind of BS. I don't see any legitimate reason why you would actually just reduce the number of time that people can request a ballot. All right. Let's move on to page 38. Okay, here's the ID requirements for absentee. In order to confirm the identity of the voter, such form shall require the elector to provide their name, DOB, address where elector. Okay, so I was with you for name, date of birth, and address as registered. Of course. That seems very reasonable to ask. Now, do tell, why is it that the elector, the voter, should provide the address where the elector wishes the ballot to be mailed? That's like if I were trying to pay a bill, they would say, well, we will only accept your money if you write down the address of the bank that Comcast deposits its revenue. I don't know where the hell they put their money. And why do I need to put where I'm going to mail my ballot? Shouldn't you just give me the damn ballot and you tell me where I should mail it to? Why do I have to tell you where I will be mailing it to you when I don't even have the ballot? This seems to me, this line right here, seems to me to be basically explicitly for the purpose of allowing them to reject ballot requests. Why should I have to know this? You just give me my ballot, give me ideally a self-addressed stamped envelope, and I'll put my ballot in there and send it off to wherever it needs to go. I don't understand why I need to tell you up front. You should know. The hell. Anyway. The number of his or her Georgia driver's license or ID card issued. Oh, Katie Kool-Aid is saying, hey, she's saying it means your address if different than the address as registered. Okay. So, in fairness, thank you, Katie Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. This is like, oh, if the address that you're registered is different than where you'd like it to be mailed. Okay, so far so good. In this case, I take that back. This is reasonable, so long as it's clear. And the number of his or her Georgia driver's license or ID card issued, I think that's reasonable. If you don't have one, you shall affirm this fact in the manner prescribed in the application. The elector shall provide a copy of a form of ID. The form made available by a secretary should include a space to affix a photocopy of electronic image of such. Okay. So I think page 38, I'm going to have to say not unreasonable, in my opinion, to provide your name, date of birth, address registered, where you want your ballot to be sent, where you want to receive your ballot, and your Georgia driver's ID license. Now, there are some people who don't have a Georgia driver's license, but they may have an identification card. So what if someone doesn't own a car? Then they may not need a driver's license. So that is a little bit of a kind of tipping of the scale in favor of people who have financial resources to own a car, or people who are not trying to be car free, trying to be more of a green lifestyle. Now, I guess the question then is like, well, if you don't have a car, you probably should try and get some form of identification. So I'm not gonna sort of get too animated about page 38. I know the New York Times has called this out. I think it's relevant, but I think it's reasonable. So in the spirit of the Nerds for Humanity channel trying to just stick to the facts, so far, I think, yes, we have a reason to call BS on this part. Like, why is it 78 days? You can't be earlier than 78, but you can't be later than 11 days prior. That, to me, is just some straight up, like, we don't want you to vote. Okay? However, page 38, about requiring you to request a ballot with ID, I'm going to say reasonable. What about page 57? In order to verify that the absentee ballot was voted by the elector who requested the ballot, the elector shall print the number of their driver's license number in the space provided on the outer oath envelope. The elector shall also print his DOB in the outer envelope as well. If they don't have a card, they shall affix. So basically, they're saying, hey, when you mail it in, print your driver's license number on the outer oath envelope. I think you could make an argument that this is meant to reduce the likelihood of kind of fraudulent ballots being mailed in. Or you could be a little more cynical and you could say, well, if the Republicans know that maybe absentee ballots tend to favor Democrats, then whatever they can do to throw kind of some speed bumps in the way, they'll do that. So this is like, oh, well, we received your ballot, but you didn't put your driver's license on the outer oath envelope. Now, Katie Kool-Lady makes a good point, which is like, I would hesitate to put personally identifiable information on any outer envelope that's sort of visible to whoever's kind of collecting my mail, or it's passing through the hands of, the mail system. Now, I don't know if the outer oath envelope is the envelope that goes into the mail, or is there like another envelope where you put your stamp on and put it in. But if this is actually the envelope that you kind of drop into the mailbox and it's got your driver's license number on it, a little bit awkward. Is it like putting your social security number? Of course not. Is it something that you might forget? Probably. And is it something that some people may hesitate to put down because of privacy concerns? Probably. Would less people kind of jumping through all of these hoops be to the advantage of Republicans? Probably. So, basically, as James Johnson makes a good point, this is another opportunity for a voter to make an error and not have the vote counted. Yeah, this sounds like, when you were little and you made a bet with your friend, and then the friend said, oh, yeah, I bet you, like, I can run faster than you, but, like, I have to, hold one hand on my head or something. And then you race and you beat the person, and they're like, oh, but on the third step, your hand left your head like a little bit. And it's like, well, dude, I'm faster than you. And then they're like, no, you weren't. The bet's off. That's one of these things. So, Jen Panda is saying, these restrictions are a signal from the Republican Party. They're worried, and it's not an act of confidence in their future voting base. Yeah, that could be. Let's see. If the elector shall so affirm in the space provided, blah, 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 and print, the last 4 digits of their Social Security in the outer oath envelope. Yeah, so that's that. That's like sort of like, okay, number one, you can only vote in this window of time. Number two, when you send it in, you've got to fill out the ballot correctly, but also fill out the outer envelope correctly. Ira Rump, yeah, I know. I am sharing a personal story because I don't like it. Another one was when I bet another friend, I don't know, that I could like catch a salamander or find like a dead rat in the woods or something. And then they're like, yeah, I'll pay you $5. And then after I found the dead rat, he said, oh, I'll give you 5 doll hairs. It's like, oh, that's so lame. It's so lame. Why does the Georgia Republican Party have to be so lame? Any rate, so let's keep going. I don't want to have flashbacks to my childhood where people welched. Okay, page 39. A blank application for an absentee ballot shall be made available by the Secretary of State. Check a Lego. Hello, nerds. And each election, but neither the Secretary of State, Superintendent, Register shall send absentee ballot applications directly to any elector except upon request of such elector or a relative authorized to request an absentee ballot of such elector. No person or entity other than a relative okay, so this is basically saying you can request an absentee ballot online, but they can't send it to you unless you make an official request by going onto their website, finding the right web page, filling out the form correctly. Who knows? Maybe they'll even make you mail it in. Then they can give you the absentee ballot. Now, what I will tell you is that in California, I received my absentee ballot. I don't even think I had to request it. I think I just got it, which I liked. Now, you could argue, as Cool Lady is saying, hey, but you may get extra ballots sent to people who used to live at the same address. That's fair. What do you do about that? Well, they would still need to fill in their driver's license number. So you'd need to know the driver's license number of the previous resident, which I think would be hard. And then you'd have to figure out how to sign their name. So I could argue that the benefit of having more access to ballots is better than the cost of extra ballots being mailed out. But in this case, what you notice here is no person other than the entity than a relative authorized to request an absentee ballot, right? So, except upon the request of the elector or a relative authorized to request a ballot. So this is basically saying, hey, if people are doing like canvassing, and they're like, hey, we want you to support, so-and-so for Senate, and then the person says, oh, okay, yeah, I support, but can I get an absentee ballot? Now, the canvasser can't request it for you. They can't say, oh, okay, yeah, great, I'm for, whatever, Yang 2024. I'm going to request the ballot for you and then have it sent to your house. Now you're going to have to say, okay, great, go to this website, right? It's like trying to get a vaccine. Go to this kind of esoteric website, find the right page, download the PDF, find a printer, print it out, fill it out correctly, fill in all the right forms and fields, and then send it in, and then maybe we'll send you the ballot. So that's, in this case, I feel like they're basically preventing activists and campaigns from trying to facilitate getting an absentee ballot for the voter. If we take our retail analogy, I would say this is like you go to a car dealership and you want to buy a car, and they're like, oh, I can help you finance it, but you got to go over to Wells Fargo across town and fill out the right forms with them, blah, blah, blah. As you can imagine, there'd be a lot less car sales. Now, maybe you should actually do that to shop around and get a better rate. But the convenience of being able to get the car and get the financing and do the DMV registration all there is a huge benefit. And this is the opposite. This is saying, oh, well, if you want to vote, you have to fill in this information not to vote, but to even just get the ballot itself. And if it's a relative, they have to be authorized to request for you. And they don't say how that authorization should be made. And James Johnson is right. They're not even talking about the ballots. This is just the application for the ballot. So, oh my God. That's right. They shall send absentee ballot applications. Oh my God, it's even worse. So you can't even, so, okay, here's the deal. You're like, hey, I want you to support Yang 2024. The person's like, okay, great, but how do I get the ballot? I want to vote by mail because I work a lot. I don't want to stand in line for like 15 hours. And they're like, no problem. We can request an absentee ballot for you and have it sent to you, but we'll have the application sent to you. And then they say, oh, no, I can't do that. Or they get in trouble requesting it for you. And then the Georgia radical Republicans say, no, 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 no. No one can request even a ballot application, an application for a ballot. Only the voter themselves can request the privilege of applying for an absentee ballot themselves. So now there's two steps. I have to request the application, right, myself. Then I have to, of course, fill out the application myself. And then I will receive the ballot, and then I got to send in the freaking ballot. So that's actually 3 steps. Why would they make it so hard to participate? Imagine if you were at the car dealership and they said, oh, you want to finance this car? Well, first, you need to request the application to apply for financing. I can't just give you a finance sheet of paper to request like the way you can at Costco and you get a freaking credit card in like 5 minutes. No, no, no. You need to personally go to this random website and fill out the request for the application. Then weeks later, they will send you your application. And then you need to fill that thing out to apply for the absentee ballot. And then if you probably fill it out incorrectly, they'll throw it away. And then if you do fill it out correctly and you send it to them, they receive it, then they're going to, weeks later, send you the actual absentee ballot. You need to fill that out correctly, and don't forget to put your driver's license or last 4 digits of your social on the outer envelope, because we know how great a security function that is. Like, God forbid you put your driver's license number on the ballot itself, but oh, you know, let's be fair. They probably want to anonymize the voting. Yeah, okay. So that's why you have to put it in the outer envelope. But as you can see, it's multiple steps. Like, decide you want to vote in this election. Figure out where to go to request the application. Download the application, print it, fill it out, mail it in, then receive the absentee ballot, fill that out, fill out the outer envelope, and then fill that in. I think that's like 10 steps. So this is like the opposite of Amazon Prime one-click ordering, right? This is like ordering from, you guys probably don't know about this, but there was a time when people ordered products through like mail order catalogs, and you'd get like an LL Bean catalog in the mail. Then you'd like find the sweater you wanted, and then you'd fill it out on a piece of paper, and then you'd send it to them, and then they would, you'd include a little check or, and then they'd send you the product, and it would take like weeks and weeks and weeks. That's basically what Georgia is doing. They're trying to take voting to like the 19th century, like the Sears Roebuck. There used to be a company called Sears that used to sell a lot of stuff. Any rate, we're going too far back. Now, let's look at the next thing. Page 47. A board of registrars or absentee ballot clerk may establish drop boxes. Okay, so you don't have to just put it in the mail. You can actually put it directly in the remote drop box. That sounds like a good thing. Okay, but may only establish drop boxes totaling the lesser of either one drop box for every 100,000 active registered voters in the county. What? One drop box for every 100,000 active registered voters in the county. Wow. That would be like having one Starbucks, per county. As we know, there's probably more than one. And it's not 100,000 people in the county. It's 100,000 active and registered voters. So it's probably like 500,000 people that live in the county are going to have one drop box. Why would you do that? Why would you have one drop box probably per 500,000 people? Why wouldn't you just have more drop box? I don't know. Drop boxes shall be established at the office of the Board of Registrars or inside locations. Oh, has to be inside locations. So you can't have I did an outdoor drop box for this last election. I found it very convenient. I just drove up, dropped it in there after walking the dog and putting the kids to bed. But now it's only inside locations. So that's like, imagine if FedEx said, oh, yes, you can use us, but you have to come to a FedEx store between 9 and 5. Why would they do that? You can have, if you can have an external location for an ATM where you can take out money, and you can have external locations for, pumping gas and stuff, like, why do you make the person go inside during work hours to drop off the ballot? And why in the Sam Hill would you only have the lesser of one drops for every 100,000 registered voters, or the number of advanced voting locations in the county? You take the lesser of them? Why would you do that? So anytime some radical MAGA person says, you're just for election fraud, so far we've got a few questions, which is like, why are you having less time for people to vote and now having one drop box per 500,000 people? And it had to be indoors during work hours. I don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not sure why you love this bill so much. Maybe because, you know what this is like? This is like if the Seahawks were playing the Niners when we had Marshawn, when the Hawks had Marshawn. And then the Niners were like, oh, you know what? You can only run the ball once, every 10 downs. Right? Or if the Patriots, when they were playing the Seahawks, said, oh, Russell Wilson can only throw when he's inside the pocket. Basically, the Georgia Republicans are like the New England Patriots during Deflategate. All right, let's move on. Maybe that's it. Okay. The superintendent of a county shall have discretion to procure and provide portable polling facilities. However, buses and movable facilities should only be used in emergencies when declared by the, in parentheses, Republican governor. Okay, so mobile voting centers doesn't sound like you can really do that. So the governing authority of the municipality, the local government, a lot of Republicans say they're in favor of local control. But in this case, the local government cannot have buses or readily movable facilities unless there's an emergency declared by the Republican governor, which they will not. So that's how it works. Basically, less access on page 31. Early voting. There shall be a period of advance voting that shall commence on the fourth Monday immediately prior to each primary, as soon as possible prior to a runoff, but no later than the second Monday immediately prior. Voting shall be conducted beginning at 9 and ending at 5 on weekdays, which is really convenient if you are not in a full-time job, but kind of sucks if you're if you're an hourly worker. Second and third Saturdays during 9 to 5. If the registered ballot clerk so chooses, a second Sunday and third Sunday. Okay. How about this? Why don't you just allow voting at any time from like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.? Basically, if the radical MAGA love private enterprise so much, take a page out of retail's book. Imagine if like your Safeway or Kroger's or Pathmark or A&P was only open from 9 to 5 a.m.? Seriously? And only on certain Saturdays, the second and third Saturday? But oh no, not the fourth Saturday. Can't do that. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. Page 60. The registrars may extend the hours of voting. Okay, that's nice. The registrars may extend the hours of voting to permit advance voting from 7 to 7 to suit the needs of the electors of their jurisdiction, provided, however, that voting shall occur only on the days specified in this paragraph. And the municipality shall not be authorized to conduct advance voting on any other days. So it has, okay, guys, here's a quick test. Who remembers when you can vote? Yeah, exactly. It's freaking complicated, right? I'll tell you, I'll remind you. So if you are in Georgia and you want to know when you can vote 9 to 5 on weekdays. But if you want to vote on weekends, you can vote on the second and third Saturday or the second and third Sunday, or both the second and third Sunday prior to the primary, but no longer than 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I mean, seriously? Well, how about this? 90 days before any election, you can vote whenever you want, man. How about that? Why don't you just make it easy to vote? Why is it so hard to vote, man? People died for the right to vote. And now you're like making it a freaking Easter egg hunt. Like who? Hello. Yes, I'd like to visit your restaurant for dinner. Yeah, great. We can take your reservation. Great. Do you have any availability in the next couple of weeks? I know you're a really important restaurant. I want to go. Oh, absolutely, sir. You can come to our restaurant for dinner between 9 and 5 p.m. on weekdays. Other than observed state holidays, of course. But you can also come on the second and third Saturdays during the hours of 9 to 5, or the second and third Sunday. But don't come on the first and fourth Saturday or the first and fourth Sunday. And don't forget that you'll have to come between 9 and 5, but we may have extended hours, but they will not be longer than between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. America. Okay, well, really, Georgia. Let's not paint America with too broad of a brush, because the rest of many states do support voting. Not Georgia, but many states do. All right, so I think that kind of, is there more? Okay, there's more. No person, so here's the TLDR, offering food or water to voters in line is a misdemeanor. What the heck is that? No person shall solicit votes in any manner or by any means or method, nor shall any person distribute or display campaign material, nor shall any. So far, I'm okay with this. You know, when someone's going to the ballot, like, that's not the time to campaign. Like, they've made their decision. Let them vote, cast their vote as they want. James Johnson raises a good point, which is if a county accidentally allows someone to vote outside of those hours, can a army of lawyers throw out the whole county's votes? And I would argue the Republicans would probably say, aha! Voting irregularities, stop the steal. Such and such county had the audacity of taking votes after 7 p.m. And then on another instance, we have evidence that they had a ballot location open, God forbid, on the fourth Saturday. 1776. No taxation without representation. Unbelievable. Can you see the tri-tip hats coming out? The red MAGA flags, the blue MAGA flags, the AR-15s about defending democracy. Some bullshit. Anyway, crazy. Okay, but I was actually defending the Republicans here because I don't think you should campaign during people's voting. Now, here it says, including but not limited to giving food or drink to an elector. Okay, that's probably, so I think their argument here is that if you're wearing like a Yang 2024 t-shirt and you want to give out water bottles on a hot day, and maybe like the water bottles have Yang paraphernalia on it, then you would be considered like trying to campaign and harass people while they're voting. Now, what you could have done is you could just say, hey, no person wearing campaign or policy-specific clothing or holding campaign-specific signage shall be allowed to distribute any branded or campaign-specific food or drink to an elector. Now, that would allow you to say, hey, yeah, we're not trying to change people's votes, but we do want to help make it a little more comfortable. You know, it's like if you're going to a popular restaurant and it's a long wait because everybody wants the ribs at such and such a place. Sometimes they might give you a little cornbread. They may give you some snacks, you know, while you're waiting. And you know, that's not trying. They're not trying to change your mind. You know you want to go eat there. That's why you showed up. So I think there was a way to do this with more nuance. However, I think in this case, you have a situation where they're just purposely trying to make it more uncomfortable to vote. All right. We have a lot more in this Georgia law to go on, but if you're enjoying this so far, I'm going to ask you a favor to like, subscribe, and share this out on Twitter or Facebook. And the other thing I want to do is I want to thank some of the people that make this channel possible. So let me give a quick shout out to our supporters of the Nerds for Humanity content. And then we're going to come back and look at the rest of this bill because we're only about halfway through it. So let's go into our members, starting with our highest level, the VP level. And if you join during this show, I'll definitely give you an extra shout out. Super chats are also welcome. All money goes to producing more content, paying for the streaming costs, software, video editing, blah, blah, blah. Marketing. VLAM, JM Sap, Fat Lamb, Kristen Slevin, Soldier One, Laura Lane, Patrick Dunn, Bike, and Mindful Skeptics. And Bike upgraded just a couple months ago. He didn't start, or they didn't start as a VP, but upgraded. So thank you for that. Laura Lane rejoined. So super awesome to see that. Next level. Let's go to the hardcore. Mike Chang, Gene Lim, David, Tracy Mesa, DK, Phoenix Congress, Jekalego, Kirsch, Thiva, Mr. History Fan, Byram Hess, Mona Burton, Susan Clifton, Yang Dang, Tony Perella, Robert Wu, Dean L, Stat Nerd, Galessa, Jay Perrin, Annalisa, Jay Bryan, Vivian Lim, Donna, and Flavio Lira. Flavio just joined 4 months ago. Welcome, Flavio. All right, and then finally, to our entry level, but still important, and our most popular level, the verified nerds. Helen, Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Brian, Peter, Arez, Your Mommin, Sophia, Jadwiga, Gail, Shake and Make, Mike CK, Doris, Emerald, Nell. What happened? Always does that to me. Some kind of weird bug. Nell, Lori, Ben, Roger, Lisa, Christina, Vaughn, Rasta, Richard, Jessica, James, who's in the chat right now, Jalopy, Emma, Spirited, Hui, Steven, Ira, Shoni, Philip, Jameson, Doctor, William, Karen, Monica, Alex, Ardent, Mai, Semery, David, Brittany, Clyde, Wanna See More, and Sasha. And our newest members overall, got to give a shout out to our newest members. They are Flavio Lira, Sasha Alexander, both less than a month old. All right, so thank you to our members. Much appreciate your support for this channel. Allows me to make more content. And, you know, we're not the most popular channel on YouTube, but there are people who appreciate this level of detail, so we will continue to provide it. All right, let's move on to the next thing, which is if a person presents himself at a polling place or absentee ballot polling place or registration in his or her county of residence for the purpose of casting a ballot, stating a good faith belief that he or she has timely registered to vote in such county of residence, in such primary, and they don't appear on the list, the person shall be entitled to cast a provisional ballot in his or her own county as provided in this code section. So in fairness, I actually think this seems reasonable. If I go to the wrong place, that I can cast a provisional ballot. All right, so far so good. If the person presents himself at a polling place in which he is registered to vote, but not at the precinct which he is registered to vote, the poll official shall inform the person of the polling location for the precinct where such person is registered to vote. They shall also inform such person that any votes cast by a provisional ballot in the wrong precinct will not be counted unless it is cast after 5 p.m. Unless it is cast after 5 p.m. and before the regular time for the closing of the polls on the day of the primary, and unless the person executes a sworn statement witnessed by the poll official stating that he or she is unable to vote as his correct ballot placed prior to the closing of the polls and giving the reason therefore. Oh, well, that's kind of annoying. That's kind of annoying. So basically, if you go to the wrong precinct, you can't cast a provisional ballot. So they'll say, hey, you're in the wrong precinct. And then they're going to say, you need to go to the right precinct to cast it. And then you're going to say, look, I'm busy. I got to get back to work. I got to get back to my kids. And they're saying, well, okay, you can cast a provisional ballot here. And then you say, okay, great. And then they say, but you got to come back after 5 p.m., which, by the way, don't some of the precincts close at 5 p.m.? But at any rate, it has to be cast after 5 p.m. and before the regular time for the closing of the polls on the day of the primary. Weird. Now, if you wanted to just be great customer service, you would say, oh, you're in the wrong precinct, but not to worry. You can fill out a provisional ballot right now, and we'll count it in the right precinct for you. Would that be so hard? No, that's not how it works, though. You've got to do it after 5 p.m., but before the regular time for the closing of the polls on the day of the primary. And don't ask me what you do if the time of the regular closing is 5 p.m. I don't know how that works. Next. Poll hours at a precinct may be extended only by an order of a judge of the Superior Court of the county in which the precinct is located, upon good cause shown by clear and convincing evidence that the persons were unable to vote at that precinct during a specific period or periods of time. Poll hours shall not be extended longer than the total amount of time during which persons were unable to vote at such precinct. Any order extending poll hours at a precinct beyond 9 p.m. shall be by written order with specific findings of fact supporting such extension. Now, if you have a long line at your favorite burger place, how do you feel when you get up to the line and they're like, oh, sorry, we are closing now? Most real businesses will say, you know what, like, if you're in line, we're going to get you your burger because we want your business. Doesn't work that way in Georgia. If you're trying to vote and there's a long line, they can extend the hours if they have an order from a judge of the Superior Court of the county, and they can provide clear and convincing evidence. What the definition of clear and convincing evidence is, I guess that's where armies of radical MAGA lawyers will make all kinds of excuses, like the whole Stop the Steal thing. And Rudy Giuliani will show up and say, there was no evidence that they should have extended the polling hours. And they can't go past 9 p.m. unless they have a written order with specific findings of fact supporting such extension. So this is all basically laying the groundwork for throwing out entire precincts, probably. Okay. Beginning 8 a.m., superintendent shall be authorized to open the outer envelope At least 3 persons who are registrars must be present. 3 persons present during all things being scanned. No person shall tally, tabulate, estimate, or attempt to tally, estimate, or cause ballot scanner or any other equipment to produce a tally until the time for the closing of the polls on the day of election. That's fine. You know what? There's a lot of crap in this law, but requiring lots of people to be present and saying, hey, it's going to take a little longer, like, you know, not everything is radical MAGA in this bill. This is, in my opinion, this part is fine. Page 18. No superintendent shall take funding from any source other than from the governing authority. The state election board shall study and report to the General Assembly a proposed method of accepting donations intending to facilitate the administration of elections. I think this is fine. But I would have loved to also see that the state will provide additional funding to ensure more ballot locations and drop boxes than one for every 100,000 active registered voters, to have enough money to support more hours of operation and earlier voting. But I think it's fine that, you know, there shouldn't be outside sources funding the elections. You know, that's fine. But I guess as the New York Times is saying, this is a nod to right-wing conspiracy theories about maybe George Soros was funding like all the elections or whatever. Or, you know, Jared Kushner or whoever your favorite conspirator is. Let's see. The Attorney General shall establish a hotline. Yep, that's fine. Hotline sounds good. I think that's great. There is created a state board known as a state election board to be composed of a chairperson elected by the state legislature, an elector by majority vote of the state assembly. No person while a member of the General Assembly. Okay, so basically the state election board is going to be selected by the Republican state legislature. So that's a TLDR there. What else? Secretary of State shall be a ex officio non-voting member of the board. Oh, wow. That's kind of a big slap in the face of the current Secretary of State, who was saying that the 2020 elections were fine. So they're saying, no, Secretary of State, you can't be part of the board anymore. It's only going to be folks from the Republican legislature. The GOP-led legislature is empowered to suspend county officials. The state election board may suspend county or municipal superintendents, appoint an individual to serve as a temporary superintendent. Such individuals shall exercise all powers. Wow, that's interesting. You know how they require a written authorization from a superior court judge to extend the polling hours, and they require evidence, clear and convincing, to do that? But if the Republican state election board wants to suspend a municipal superintendent and they want to place their own temporary superintendent in an entire jurisdiction, it doesn't seem to say there's any evidence required. Right? Now, at no time, they're only allowed to suspend 4 or more superintendents at a time. So I guess that's like some restraint. But why wouldn't they be required? Why should the state election board just arbitrarily be able to suspend people with no evidence? Okay. In an instance where no candidate receives a majority, special runoff shall be held on the 28th day after the day of holding the... Okay, you know, it might be a little bit faster to do the runoff, harder to manage, but I don't see why that's terrible. All right, so that, friends, is a summary. Woo! Of this Georgia law. So, what's the TLDR for those of you who have been lost in a sea of legalese? One is you can't vote too early and you can't vote too late. There's a point where it's like, well, 79 days too early. Oh, 10 days too late. You can't request your absentee ballots too early or too late, which is weird. Second is you have to officially request the application to request an absentee ballot. And when you do fill out that request and you do fill out the absentee ballot, you've got to do it exactly as they want, including writing your driver's license number on the outer envelope or the last 4 digits of your social. If you don't, they'll throw out your entire ballot. If you filled out your ballot and you want to drop it off at a drop box because you work late and you don't have time to work from 9 to 5, you don't have the time to vote from 9 to 5, there will only be a maximum of 1 drop box per 100,000 active registered voters. And then if you can't find that drop box, because that's like finding 1 Starbucks in like an entire county, which is a pain in the butt. If we need 10 Starbucks per county, we sure as hell could use 10 drop boxes. Hell, you could put the damn drop box right in front of the Starbucks. Any rate, then if you do want to vote in person, you can vote between 9 and 5 p.m. on weekdays. God forbid you want to vote before 9 a.m., before you go to work, or after work. But you can go on weekends if it's on certain Saturdays or Sundays. The second and third Saturday and Sunday, but not the fourth, I think. And unclear if you can do it on the first. And if any county does anything in violation of that, get ready for the radical MAGA lawyers to, bring Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani to talk about how Hugo Chavez was the superintendent of some county in Georgia and how the votes were being counted in Cuba or wherever. So net, my take is that this law, it's basically an effort to reduce the number of people participating, right? And it's not just to reduce it, but to make it harder through sort of somewhat arbitrary but plausibly election security reasons. But if you really cared about election security, like the hours that they're voting, the polls allowed to remain open. Oh yeah, and if there's a long line, you can't offer water to people. And they didn't, even if you're not wearing any campaign insignia and you're just offering water, you can't do that. And what else was there? I think those are the main things. The no water. Oh yeah, and then if there's a long line and you're running the precinct and you want to extend the hours because like you see lines and lines of people, you can't do it unless you have a written order from a superior court judge. And if you want to go by past 9 p.m., then it's a higher level of authority. But the state legislature can at any time, under its discretion, without any evidence, suspend and replace superintendents of elections, but they won't do more than 4 replacements at a time. So hopefully this has been useful to you. If you find the Nerds for Humanity content useful, please remember to like this, share it out, and comment below on whether you think this is maybe I'm being too hard on the Republicans, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little slimy here. Before we wrap up, I do want to give a shout out to some of the latest candidates on the ofthepeople.us website, which is a nonprofit that me and some other volunteers started. So That's at ofthepeople.us. And as you can see here, we have Sammy Ravello running for Bronx Borough President. He's a great guy, big supporter of Andrew Yang as well. We have Justin Foster running for County Clerk. We have Christy Seelock, who goes by Visurant on Twitter, running for State Representative. You have Mary Maloney running for New York City Council. We have Russ Russell running for Governor of Arkansas. Alan Lee is going to make a go at trying to become president. And Free Sandlin running for mayor. Sheridan Lund running for Congress in New Mexico, pro-UBI. Those are some of the most recent. Andrew Lignani. And then if you ever want to just filter, you can filter by policy position and say, well, who are the UBI people? So you see Christie, Sheridan, Austin Searle. So that's an example of how you can see who's running and decide if you want to support some local candidates. Because you remember, about 80% of people in Congress started out local. And if we can help get more competition and more kind of diverse voices in at the local level, those are the people that the two parties often pick for a congressional. So that's the whole point of ofthepeople.us. And you can support that project through Patreon as well. Just click on the accelerate this project button, and all that money goes to our product development costs around like storage and GitHub and web hosting and email accounts, that kind of thing. So thanks to everybody for joining. And if you're seeing this on replay, thanks for catching up. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. With that, I'm going to fade to black. Keep it real, nerds. Bye, nerds. Whoops. That was supposed to end very elegantly, and it did not. But now it shall.